Okay, picture this. You've just landed in a new city.
Yeah.
You're jet-lagged, but, the adrenaline's pumping. You've got the new job title, the relocation package is sorted, and you are ready to hit the ground running. You walk into a rental agency to find an apartment,
Right.
and the agent looks you right in the eye and says, "Sure, you can live here. I just need you to hand over enough cash to buy a brand new Ferrari.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and I need it in a lump sum. Today."
It sounds like a shakedown, doesn't it?
It sounds like a bank heist.
But according to the research we're diving into today, specifically on the housing market in Seoul, South Korea, that is not an exaggeration.
Not at all.
One of our sources actually described the process for a foreigner trying to navigate that rental market as running a marathon with your shoelaces tied together.
That is a painfully accurate metaphor. I think for most Westerners, or really anyone outside of East Asia, the South Korean housing market is a genuine culture shock.
Right.
It just operates on economic principles that are almost the inverse of what you're used to in, say, London or New York. Exactly. And that's what we're unpacking today. We're going deep into the mechanics of this system to understand why it's so hostile to outsiders, both financially and administratively. But we're not just going to, admire the problem. We're also looking at the solution, the cheat code, if you will, provided by our source material today, primarily insights from MoveInStay.com.
Right. And MoveInStay.com is a crucial resource here because they've been doing this for over 25 years. They specialize in corporate housing, service departments all across the Asia-Pacific region.
So they've seen it all.
They've seen thousands of business travelers hit these exact walls, so they know where the doors are hidden.
So their mission is essentially helping professionals bypass what they call the deposit trap. And we have to start there, because when I first read the numbers, I honestly thought there was a typo.
I'm sure.
I thought surely they added an extra zero.
No typo. You are encountering the Johnsy system.
Johnsy. Okay, let's define this immediately because it's the root of everything. To my Western ears, a rental contract is simple. I pay a security deposit, maybe 1 month's rent, and then I pay a monthly fee. How does Johnsy just break that model?
It breaks it by removing the monthly rent entirely.
Wait, zero rent?
Zero monthly rent. Instead, under a Johnsy contract, the tenant lends the landlord a massive lump sum of cash at the start of the lease, usually 2 years.
How massive are we talking?
We're talking about 50% to sometimes 80% or even 90% of the property's market value.
Okay, whoa, let's run the math on that. So if I want to live in a nice apartment in a business district that's worth, say, $600,000,
Yeah.
I have to hand over nearly $500,000 just to get the key.
Precisely. You give them $450,000, maybe $500,000. The landlord holds that money for 2 years.
And at the end of the contract.
You give the keys back, and they give you the entire principal sum back, every single penny.
So it's an interest-free loan from the tenant to the landlord.
That is exactly what it is.
But why? I mean, what's in it for the landlord? In the U.S. or Europe, landlords want cash flow. They need that check every month to pay the mortgage.
This is where you have to look at the historical economic context of Korea. For a long time, interest rates in banks were incredibly high. We're talking double digits during their rapid growth eras.
Wow.
So a landlord could take your $500,000, put it in a savings account, and live very comfortably off the interest. Or, more commonly, they'd use that money to go buy another apartment.
The gap investment strategy, I've heard of this.
Right. They use your deposit to buy a second house, get a deposit for that house to buy a third. It fuels this whole speculative chain.
And for the tenant, what's the upside?
Well, traditionally, it was seen as a good deal because you're forced saving. You aren't throwing money away on rent. You get it all back.
It sounds great, in theory, living rent-free. But for our listener who might be an expat sent to Seoul for 6 months.
It's an impossible barrier.
Right. I don't know many VPs of marketing who can just liquidate $500,000 to park in a foreign landlord's bank account.
Exactly. It requires massive, massive liquidity. And here's the darker side of Johnsy that the sources touch on. The risk.
The risk that the landlord, what, can't pay you back?
Correct. If housing prices drop, which has been happening, the landlord might be underwater. They owe you $500,000, but now the apartment is only worth $450,000.
And if they can't find a new tenant to pay that same high deposit.
They can't pay you back. This is known as the tin can Johnsy crisis.
Tin can because it's empty.
Because it's hollow. You're holding a contract that's suddenly worth nothing. So as a foreigner, you have the liquidity problem, and you're stepping into a high-trust system with zero leverage and huge risk.
Okay, so Johnsy's off the table for most of our listeners. But the sources mention an alternative called WOLS. This looks more like the rental system we know, right?
Yeah.
Monthly payments.
It does, but with a Korean twist. Wolf's is monthly rent, yes. But that deposit culture is so ingrained that even for a monthly rental, the security deposit is astronomical by Western standards.
So we aren't talking about first and last month's rent here.
No, not even close. In New York, a deposit might be, what, $2,000–$3,000? In Seoul, for a standard Wolf's contract, you're often looking at a deposit of 10 million to 50 million won.
Which is, what, in dollars?
Roughly 10,000 to 40,000 US dollars.
Just to move in.
Just to secure the lease. And the rent is actually tied to the deposit. The more you put down, the less you pay each month. That's the banjons or half-Johnsy system.
So no matter which door you pick in the traditional market, Jans or Wolf's, you're getting hit with a massive capital requirement.
Yeah.
It's a filter.
It is a filter that effectively blocks, I'd say, 90% of international arrivals. Unless your company fronts that cash, you're stuck.
And we haven't even talked about the paperwork yet.
Oh, the paperwork.
The paperwork puzzle.
Wow.
The source material described this as trying to solve a puzzle without the box lid.
I love that. And it's true, the digital infrastructure in South Korea is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly rigid. It relies on identity systems that are difficult for foreigners to access right away.
Give us the checklist. What's the first hurdle?
Okay. Step 1. You need an alien registration card, the ARC. You cannot sign a long-term lease without one.
And how long does that take to get?
Depending on the backlog at immigration, it can take anywhere from 3 weeks to 2 months after you arrive.
Wait, so for the first month or two, you legally can't rent a long-term apartment?
You're in limbo. Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
But it gets worse. To pay the rent, you need a local bank account. Landlords don't take international wire transfers.
Okay, simple enough. You go to the bank.
You go to the bank, and the bank asks for your ARC. And often, proof of residence.
But you can't get the residence without the bank account to pay for it.
Welcome to the loop. It is a classic catch-22. You need the apartment to get the bank account, and the bank account to get the apartment, and the ARC for both.
It's dizzying.
And while you're scrambling, you hit the final boss of the rental game, the guarantor.
The guarantor. That sounds ominous.
It feels personal. Many landlords see foreigners as a flight risk, someone who might just fly home and abandon the lease.
So they want a local to co-sign.
A Korean national to co-sign the lease, yes.
Yeah.
This person is legally on the hook if you stop paying.
So you land in Seoul, maybe 2 people at your new office, and you have to ask them, hey, will you put your financial life on the line for me?
It's an impossible ask. It creates this immense social friction. I've seen expats stuck in hotels for 3 months just because of this triad. ARC, bank, and guarantor.
Wow. It turns what should be an exciting time into a full-time administrative job.
It really does.
And the source material gave us some pricing context. For a decent studio in a central district, you're looking at around $730,000 to $1 million, a month in rent.
Plus that $10,000 plus deposit we mentioned, the stakes are very real.
So we have the Johnsy shock and the admin nightmare. If I'm a business traveler there for a 4-month project, I'm looking at this and thinking, is it even worth it?
And that is exactly where the traditional system fails. It's not built for the modern, mobile professional. It's built for long-term residents with local capital.
Which brings us to the solution, the cheat code. This is where MoveInStay.com focuses their entire business. They provide access to service departments.
Right.
Now, when I hear service department, I sometimes just think hotel room with a microwave. Is that fair?
That's a bit reductive. Think of it more like the missing link between a hotel and a permanent home.
Okay.
A hotel is great for a week, but after that you feel claustrophobic, you can't cook, laundry's expensive, you're living out of a suitcase. A permanent home requires that 2-year lock-in and the huge deposit.
And the service department sits in the middle.
Exactly. It's that sweet spot.
And based on the Move and Stay data, the single biggest differentiator is the financial entry point.
Absolutely. This is the game changer. Service departments bypass the Johnsy system entirely. There's typically low to no deposit required.
So we go from tying up, $400,000 in capital to 0.
Or maybe a small refundable security deposit, like 1 month's rent. But essentially, yes, you're freeing up massive amounts of capital.
That's huge.
For a corporation relocating 10 employees, that's literally millions of dollars in liquidity that isn't locked up in Korean real estate.
But it's also about the lease terms, right?
Yeah.
Because Johnsy's usually a strict 2-year contract.
Right. And breaking a lease in Korea is tough. You often have to find your own replacement tenant before the landlord will return your deposit.
Oh, wow.
Service departments, on the other hand, are designed for flexibility. The learner, demographic, people on projects, consultants, they might need 3 months or 6 or month to month because they don't know when the project ends.
And MoveAndStay.com caters specifically to that uncertainty.
They do. It's plug-and-play housing. You sign for a month, need another, you extend. You're not signing your life away.
Let's talk about the plug-and-play aspect. The source mentioned an all-inclusive approach. As someone who has tried to set up utilities in a foreign language, I know that pain.
It is a nightmare. In a traditional rental, you have to contact the electric company, the gas company, the water board, and ISP for internet, all in Korean, all requiring that ARC we talked about.
So you could be sitting in the dark for 3 weeks.
Often, yes. In a service department, it's one bill. Rent, gas, water, electricity, and crucially high-speed Wi-Fi. It is all bundled.
No surprise bills in the mail that you can't read.
Exactly. And honestly, something people never think about is trash disposal.
Trash disposal. How complicated can taking out the garbage be?
In Seoul, very. It's one of the strictest systems in the world. Specific colored bags for specific districts. Food waste is separated, weighed, and you get charged by the kilo using an RFID card.
You are kidding. An RFID card for my food scraps.
I am not. And if you get it wrong, you can get fined. For a newcomer, it is genuinely stressful.
But a service department handles this.
They often handle it for you or have a simplified central collection. It sounds minor, but it's a huge quality of life difference. It's about removing all those little micro stressors that add up.
Right. And the fully furnished part, the source was pretty clear. This isn't just a bed and a sofa.
No. MoveAndStay.com emphasizes move-in ready. That means a kitchenette with a stove, a microwave, pots, pans, silverware, linens, towels.
So you don't need a trip to IKEA.
You do not need an IKEA run. You don't need to wait for a shipping container. You just walk in, put down your laptop, and you're home.
Which, for a business traveler, is the difference between being productive on day 1 versus day 14.
Precisely. And the transparency is key. In traditional rentals, you get hit with management fees or guanlibi, another $100 or $200 a month.
For what?
The elevator, security, cleaning the hallway, it varies. Service departments have a fixed, transparent price. Corporate accounting departments love that.
I bet they do. Clear invoices, no surprises. Okay, I'm sold on the concept. This is the only logical path for a non-permanent stay. But where do you find these places?
They aren't on the standard local real estate apps, which are all in Korean and focused on Jeonsi. You need specialized platforms.
Like MoveAndStay.com.
Yes. The source describes these as the Zillow for extended stays. They aggregate this specific type of inventory service departments, hotels, serviced offices. You can filter by price, duration, and most importantly, location.
Let's talk location strategy. Seoul is massive. Where should you be dropping your pin on the map?
You have to strategize based on your hub. Don't just look at a nice photo of an interior. Look at the commute.
So what are the main hubs?
Well, if you're in finance or banking, you probably want Uito. It's like the Wall Street of Seoul. If you're in tech, startups, fashion, you want Gangnam.
The famous Gangnam.
The very same. It's modern, fast-paced, high-end. But if you're working with government or traditional conglomerates, you might need to be north of the river in Jongno or Gwanghwamun.
And the golden rule from the source was the subway.
The subway is life in Seoul. It is world-class. Being within a 5 to 10-minute walk of a station is the single most important factor for your quality of life. Don't compromise on that.
Good advice. And you also want a gym, a grocery store, a place you can actually live.
Exactly. You need to build a normal life.
So let's bring this all together. We started with the sheer intimidation of the Jeonsi system, the $500,000 deposits, the risk, the tin can crisis.
Then we looked at the administrative marathon, the ARC, the banking loops, the guarantor requirements. That makes the traditional market feel like a closed fortress.
And we landed on the solution that bridges that gap. The service department, it removes the capital requirement, cuts the paperwork, and provides a flexible, all-inclusive landing pad.
It's really about infrastructure. We think of infrastructure as roads and bridges. But for the global economy, soft infrastructure like these housing platforms, moveandstay.com and others, are just as critical.
They allow talent to move.
That's a great way to put it. Housing systems are cultural mirrors. The Jeonsi system is fascinating. It works for them, mostly. But the international business world moves too fast. It needs a different interface.
And companies like Move and Stay are that interface. They're the adapter plug that lets you plug a global career into a local socket.
And that changes the whole experience. You go from surviving a relocation to actually enjoying the city. You can spend your first weekend exploring a palace instead of crying in a bank branch.
And that is a win in my book. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listener with a thought. We often assume the hardest part of moving abroad is the language or the homesickness. But often, the biggest wall is just getting the key to the front door.
So true.
So here's the question. If you could move to a new country tomorrow, knowing your housing was solved in a single click, no deposit, no guarantor, no shoelaces tied together, where would you go? Maybe the world is smaller than you think once you have the right keys. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive.
See you next time.